Yeah, I figure we can fix that in...
Yeah, we'll fix it in post.
In post.
Yeah. All you have to say is just we'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it works, is you say fix it in post, and then I just pretend to do things, and then it's done. And it's funny.
Yes. I don't know what funny is right now.
I don't think anyone knows what funny is right now.
Yeah.
So as far as this is concerned, this might end up being, about a 5-10 minute podcast?
Very well could be, but to be honest, I really think that's about all that we've got in terms of
For the fan, we desperately need to make sure that we continue to have content.
Yes.
And then plea to them that this will not be a common occurrence, and that this is only one horrible, horrible confluence of events.
It is. This is the truth.
Speaking of which, James either looks like he is telepathically communicating with me or asleep.
He could be a Vulcan.
Judging from the fact that he has yet to respond, but he is staring deeply into my soul, I am imagining it as telepathic communication. In which case, I'm really deeply concerned that if I start listening to the audio and I start hearing James's voice, this is just gonna be fucked.
That would be like magic.
Oh, well, that is the definition of magic.
Yes. God damn it.
What?
God damn it, what?
Oh.
Is this? Are you still getting texts about how Detroit is doing?
Yes.
How are the Lions?
Tigers.
Sorry.
Baseball.
Bears, oh my.
That's Chicago.
Just let me have the fucking joke.
Fine. Tigers are losing 4-3 to Kansas City, of all things.
Hey,
I'm
go
sorry.
Royals.
The Royals. Best of all, it was an RBI for Miggy, so yay.
Well, that's good. For anyone who listens who actually understands what baseball means.
Cabrera, yeah.
Wait, what? How is that an answer?
Miguel Cabrera.
What the fuck's an RBI?
There we go.
Oh.
That was what I was getting at.
Oh, run batted in.
That... Oh, fuck it.
That's what I was getting at. Not the player, not... That's not the information that was helpful if you don't understand the basics of baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Core tenets. Things like that. What is it, rounders?
Yeah, we have rounders.
No, but I mean, effectively, baseball is just a slightly more complicated rounders, right?
Well, it's... Yeah, I mean, rounders has rules, but there's no sort of set rules that we play in school. But the main difference is that rounders is a much shorter bat.
Okay, so kind of like we have softball, which is probably maybe more akin to rounders.
A rounder's bat is like 1.5 to 2 feet long.
That's much shorter than even a softball.
Yeah, you swing it with one hand. It's basically designed so you can hit people in enclosed spaces really easily.
Okay,
really?
we call that a mini bat, and we use that for muggings.
Are there videos of this sport online that I can watch
We don't actually
somewhere?
hit people, but if you want, I can hit people.
It's not a part of the sport. That's just the mugging portion.
When my dad went to Ireland, he went to see a hurley game, and he described to me by saying, apparently there are just no rules about hitting other people with the sticks.
Okay.
And for what?
Sticks for what?
I guess there's a stick with a little cup on the end, and I guess you can...
Isn't that lacrosse?
No, it's hurley. It's an Irish game.
No, it's lacrosse.
No.
It's lacrosse, but it's more basic.
Wait, is this one of those English-Irish split things that we're going to have to...
I have no idea what she's talking about.
Okay.
I don't remember because this was a long time
Bear
ago.
in mind,
Okay,
he was an American.
I can Google.
He was an American. He was watching a game of lacrosse. He was like, "Oh, is this some Irish sport?" And they're like, "Yeah, what's it called?"
It's called
hurley. Because we throw the ball.
Because we hurl it at you.
God damn it! My dad knows what lacrosse is.
All right. Well, there's hurling.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Hurling.
Hurling match. Galway hurling. I have yet to find a fucking Wikipedia entry for hurling.
Hurling match.
Hurling Wikipedia, there we go. Is an outdoor team sport of Gaelic and Irish origin. It does look surprisingly like lacrosse.
because it's lacrosse.
It's not lacrosse!
It is lacrosse. Lacrosse probably
The game
came
has
from
prehistoric origins, has been played for over 3,000 years, and is thought to be the world's fastest field team game in terms of gameplay, as someone said in Wikipedia. One of Ireland's native Gaelic games, it shares a number of features with Gaelic football, such as field goals, number of players, and much terminology. There's a similar game for women called, I cannot pronounce that, Carnogie?
I don't know.
Karnaki?
The point is that it's not lacrosse. It's vaguely similar to lacrosse, but it is not lacrosse.
It would have come from it. The convergence doesn't happen that
No,
often.
it is not lacrosse. Look at the hurling stick. It is just a giant paddle.
Yeah, it's nothing
Yeah, exactly. That's
No, lacrosse
has a basket
net.
at the end.
I know, but it's the same fucking core concept.
I mean, yeah, sure.
That would have evolved anyway. That would have come from because that's the kind of system you have when you need to throw spears, javelins really far. So you develop that. That's the thrower.
But
Then you get a higher arc.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't lacrosse based on a Native American sport?
No, because we play it in England.
No, I think you're thinking of Highlight.
Yes.
That's
yes.
See now, because I was going to
Sorry,
ask you, is
sorry.
that more or less popular than highlight? Because that's really the big mark of shit sports.
What?
Highlight, no one plays it, no one understands it. It's some crazy guy's pipe dream.
Well, Highlight is like lacrosse, but with a giant stone rock, so that you really fucking kill somebody if you're not careful.
And you don't have the basket isn't on a stick; it's just like on a glove, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I thought like originally the losing team was really fucked.
Yeah.
Like way back. I don't know. That might be really bad memory, but I thought it was not a good idea to be on the losing team of Highlight when it was originally played in prehistoric times.
Yeah, that's what my
Well,
brain
to be
is.
fair, it was probably really bad to be on the losing team of most teams.
Curtis, if we know it's there, it's not prehistoric times.
So
If we know it's there.
Yeah,
So
if we know
wait.
it's there and it was people, that's the definition of history.
So we're going back to like those caves, and when we say those caves in France are prehistoric, we say no, nah, son. We know they're there.
We don't know what they were doing.
That's true. Well, no, we have a general idea. They were probably hunting, or at least hoping that they could hunt. They had aspirations to hunt.
It
Yeah,
was.
they
You'd
were
probably find
definitely-
it was a bunch of like tomato farmers. They're like, look what we could be, and now that's what we think they were doing.
That'd be really funny if they were all vegetarian hunter gatherers that just secretly, desperately wanted to hunt, and so, or maybe in their culture the most horrifying thought was hunting, and so they tell horror stories of people going out butchering animals.
So this is what some weird alien culture is going to think of our culture eventually, right?
Sure. And speaking of that all goes back to early hominids, which might actually pull us into. Oh, come on. Just don't just stare blankly at me like this. Jesus Christ.
You moved my mic.
Our stuff?
Our
podcast.
stuff.
Our
Our stuff.
podcast.
Our thing we were going to talk about.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're talking about that one thing.
That one thing, right? Yeah.
With the stuff.
Yeah.
Darwinius.
Yes, Darwinius.
Which, actually, okay, fun story. Just as this publication was coming out, I happened to be in Oslo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I saw the original Ida specimen on display in the Museum of Oslo as the whole media buzz was coming out.
Oh, that's really cool.
And I even saw like some renovations. I think that the Museum of Natural History in Stockholm was also trying to incorporate some of this data into. So there was a whole bunch of cool stuff that I had seen just at that point.
Uh-huh.
So I guess backing up a little bit earlier, Darwinius as a concept in 2009 was being heralded by the media as being like the missing link to all human beings.
The earliest ape. Or
Essentially.
ancestor, yeah.
Yeah. The earliest, what are they? Anthroid primate?
Anthropoid.
Anthropoid.
Yeah.
Anthropoids.
Primate, yeah.
Yes.
And a really cool specimen. Like if you've actually, there are plenty of pictures of it all around. Just look up Ida or Darwinius,
Yeah.
and chances are good you'll find good pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about the specimen, I guess, is that at least from subsequent papers, it seemed that despite the fact that it was one of the most complete, it had really poor dental records, I guess.
Yeah, because it was a juvenile specimen. And
Yeah.
so as with all mammals, essentially, we go through a wave and a half of tooth replacement. So that essentially means that we lose all of our baby teeth and get a couple extra ones in. So what's going on with Darwinius is that it essentially has baby teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's starting to grow in some of the adult teeth.
Okay.
But the way that we identify mammals, and this is partially going back to taphonomy, is
everything goes back
to taphonomy, is that most of the time when we find mammal fossils, all we find are teeth.
Yeah.
So that makes getting a juvenile specimen kind of a pain in the butt.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Let's be realistic here. Getting a juvenile specimen when trying to name taxonomy can sometimes always be a pain in the butt.
Yes.
Darwinius also had, if I remember correctly, a number of pathologies. Like the pathologies was some of the more interesting things about it in terms of as an individual.
Well, one of the things that one of the later articles suggested, not the original one that was presented, but was that this was actually a specimen that was split in two, like it was sheared out of slab.
Yeah.
They cut it out of a slab, which happens a lot in fossils. You don't really know if there's anything there. You chisel it out, and you're like, holy shit, look at this thing. But one slab had been little few incomplete bits, and they had reconstructed it just by chiseling the rock into place and sold the damn thing.
Yeah.
And it was so good of a craftsmanship that nobody realized until they released the 2009 paper.
Yeah.
Like it was sold in 2004, I think.
Something like that, yeah. Several years before they published on it.
Yeah.
There's a big backstory for this entire specimen from a sort of historical perspective. It's from Messel, which is one of these big Eocene Lagerstätten where you get a lot of mammals and birds and fish and reptiles from.
Yeah.
It's also completely illegal to deal in specimens from Messel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there was an interesting discussion of the complex history of Messel, that Messel started off as sort of like unknown territory of who really owned it.
Yeah.
It was going to become a garbage dump until eventually, late 90s, it was declared a world treasure.
Yeah.
World Heritage Site?
Yeah, World Heritage
like
Site.
Yeah.
And it's now, I guess, anything that's there has to go to museums on Messel, right? Like,
Yes.
you can't even leave.
Yeah, but definitely, it's got to stay within Germany. It's got to be scientifically studied and catalogued, and you cannot pass money over it because it's basically illegal trading.
And also part of the problem with specimens from Messel is that they have to be prepared a certain way, or else after a certain amount of time the fossil just disintegrates, essentially, because these are preserved in oil shales, which
They'll desiccate.
They'll dry out.
Yeah.
So they have to preserve them by preparing one side, embedding it in resin, flipping it over, and preparing the other side.
Okay.
And so that will stop the shrinkage from happening.
Well, the interesting thing with this specimen is it was unearthed in, like, the 80s. So right in between the period when Messel was closed to be a garbage dump in the 70s.
They say
but
that.
Never happened.
They say that, but you get a lot of specimens that are sold that were magically collected the year before things were named World Heritage Sites. That is common practice.
But with Messel, we know it has to be fairly recent, or else the desiccation.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So, but that specimen was collected supposedly in the late 80s and held on to for about 5 years or 10 years before the shit half was even sold to another museum.
Mm-hmm.
And then for $750,000 it went to Oslo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really beautiful specimen. I mean, let's back this up and repeat again. Beautiful, complete specimen of a wonderfully complete mammal.
Yep.
And definitely a primate.
Yes.
And it's really cool to look at this thing. They had it, under glasses when I was in Oslo, just a little separate container where you could all look at it. And there's Ida, and that's the only designation that they had.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool just to sit there. And it wasn't like there was a huge crowd or anything. It was just this little thing in a corner, but it had its own little setup just for Ida.
Kind of like the Mona Lisa.
Kind of like the Mona Lisa.
In fact, they even mentioned that in the paper.
They mentioned that in the paper. I mean, to be fair, everyone likes to use Mona Lisa as this, like, benchmark for artistry, right? Like, we have the Mona Lisa of blank. We have the Mona Lisa of burgers.
I tried to go see the Mona Lisa when I was in Paris this summer, and I was trying to walk from Notre Dame to the Louvre, and I got lost, so I never got to see it.
So you didn't actually get to make your way to the Louvre?
No.
It's apparently very underwhelming.
Oh, is it?
It's
Very
really small.
small.
That's the thing, is everyone expects it to be this huge painting, but it's really small.
Well, then I'm not very disappointed. But I did get hideously lost, and I just was like, well, just got to find the river. And so I finally backtracked until I got to the river, and then I could make my way back to Notre Dame.
When I was in
It's pretty bad.
when I was in Oslo, there's an entire museum dedicated to Edvard Munch, the guy who did the Scream and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And actually seeing the Scream was really interesting because so much of the color palette comes from. I know it probably wasn't what he did, but the whatever he painted on, it almost looked like he just took a cardboard box, like ripped it off, and then just like painted over it. And so much of the color palette seems to bleed in from the original color of the thing he painted over. And so it adds a kind of really weird intensity to the picture that you don't get when you just see reprints.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So sometimes, yeah, that can come up and be like, oh man, I really wish it had been so much bigger or so much better. But other times you get a more weird appreciation for it. The other classic example that I'm pretty sure is still on display at the Chicago Museum of Art, the Art Institute, is if you ever see the Picasso's Blue Period, the classic painting of the old man with the guitar looking really depressed.
Yeah.
Well, if you duck down and look up at it, so all you see is the texture of the brush strokes. He painted a second picture on it with the way he did the brush strokes, which is a young woman suckling her son. So it's like the ghost of birth and then death in the same painting.
That's interesting. See, so many of these factors that go into classic art is just one of those things that I find actually kind of fascinating about it. Like David.
Yeah.
When you actually look at David from dead on, the proportions are all wrong.
Yeah.
It's actually carved to be slightly elevated and seen from one side.
A lot of portrait paintings are kind of bell-bottom shaped because you're meant to be looking at it, and you're meant to be looking up at like a 60 to 70 degree angle.
Okay.
So
the assumption that it's like over a fireplace looming over you and you're looking at it. That's a really cool trick to be able to pull off perspective-wise. Yeah. It certainly is something that kind of undercut. Sometimes with portraiture and things like that, people like to undercut that work and say, "Oh, it was all camera lucida," and they just like copied it. But with that kind of perspective shot, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So this has been the art portion of our podcast about Darwinia.
Yes.
It's Darwinius. Darwinia is a game where you populate little people and make them kill each other. No, it's Multiwinia. Multiwinia is the multiplayer game, I guess Darwinia, they're still getting... Never mind.
Okay.
Can you make cats in that game?
No, you cannot make cats in that game. It's not like Scribblenauts. You can't just make sleepy, happy cats. Sleepy, happy, green, sickly cats.
No, not sickly.
Okay,
sleepy,
happy, green, and vulnerable cats.
Yes.
Okay.
You make all your cats invulnerable.
Yes. All of my cats will be invulnerable.
And the dogs.
And fiery. Invulnerable and fiery, so that way they can run around and burn things.
Some of them will be grumpy, and some of them will be sleepy.
Will you make one little mouse there so they can all play with it?
As long as it's friendly playing. So it has to be
an invulnerable mouse.
It has to be an invulnerable mouse.
An
invulnerable toy mouse.
Okay, well the toy mouse, see that's different.
I don't want they can't hurt a live mouse.
Okay.
Although I really wouldn't mind if Mr. Jowl somehow got into the wall and ate the squirrel that's been scratching around in there.
You have a squirrel in your wall?
Yeah, I talked to Metawork about it, and they're supposed to be they're gonna take care of it, but
that's good.
Yeah, fabulous.
Hey, wonderful! I have a squirrel in my wall.
Yeah, it's only really annoying at 2 a.m. when you hear, which you probably can't hear.
You just pulled James's mic.
Oh God, I'm sorry, James.
It's like the 5th time you've done this.
Okay, let's move that over there.
There we go.
There
now,
we
as
go.
you continue, now it's only going to get it when you continue to paw more aggressively,
which I won't do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, there's a squirrel in my wall.
Okay. So the Mona Lisa of fossils.
Right. Right.
Well, this was always Bruce used to say in his classes, the fish in a fish. That's over in central Kansas.
The Zephactinus.
Yeah, the Zephactinus that potentially choked on another fish, and that's why it's dead.
Yeah.
Is the Mona Lisa of fossils.
I made one of these little motivational posters for this, There is a fossil of a fish, and it's got the head of another fish in its mouth and the back of the head sticking out, and it's been in textbooks as like examples of how you can see direct interactions with the fossil record. You know that this ate that fish, and I was like, no, that tried to eat that fish and it died. It might not regularly have been trying to eat that kind of fish. And I found a photo of a fish washed up on the beach in the exact same position, and I put the two photos together, and then it's on my Facebook, and I entitled underneath, Evolution, it worked then, it works now. And I put that up in class when we're doing the ecology part of stuff. I'm like, so you get this in the fossil record, but you always really need to think about what you're seeing.
I like the idea that we can't really be sure that this thing was actually successfully eating it. We just know that it tried.
Yeah.
Yes.
We also know that tiger sharks will eat number plates and boots, but that is not part of their standard diet.
To be fair, maybe it is part of their standard diet. They just didn't realize how much they loved it until we made them.
Tiger
and now
sharks...
they're really, really sad that the Middle Ages are gone because they can no longer get their steady supply of armor.
Tiger sharks will eat fucking anything.
They'll bite at any movement that's in front of them, more or less.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, that's kind of the way sharks are, though, because they
not
don't
always.
really...
Well, yeah.
They don't have hands.
They test things with the mouth.
Greenland sharks. I mean, come on.
Everything, you're right, everything will tactile try to sense things from the most soft parts. It's just unfortunate that in the shark, that's surrounded by very sharp teeth.
Yes.
It's like, oh... Huh.
But I mean,
I guess you're gonna die now. Well, why put you to waste?
Well,
no, they hardly ever eat anyone.
Oh, yeah.
Most people, they get bumped once and
they bite,
or you die of shock. That's when most people die of snake bites. Die of shock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, people get bitten, but then the shark is like, "You're not food," and they go to leave. The problem is that we as humans are squishy and have many vital organs and blood vessels close to the surface. And die very
water,
easily.
And to be honest, we are not in any way well suited for an aquatic life habit.
No, especially an aquatic marine life habit.
And this is coming from a competitive swimmer. We are fucking lousy at swimming.
Yeah, that's true.
We are bad at it.
We're not bad at running. We're not great at it.
We're not great at running either.
Why do everyone's walking around like a fucking cripple because your knees get fucked after about 12 years of life.
I really like the fact that we've still kept this hominid related.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
We've tangented on topic.
That almost never happens.
I know.
Yeah.
So this paper was released in 2009 after the specimen. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing about it, which is, I mean...
simultaneously with.
Yeah. The interesting thing about it is that media release and media buzz for it was kind of happening before it happened.
The book was written before they embargoed the paper so that it would come out the same day as the media stuff, and the book would come out a week later.
So, James, can you discuss a little bit about just some basic ideas of embargoing or why this happens occasionally?
So, whenever journals have a topic that's going to come up in their volumes that they think is going to be of broad interest, you'll get press releases go out. And a press release will often tell something about the paper and give journalists sort of like a base plate for a story that they can then build off of. And the journalists will then hopefully talk to scientists and see the paper and then talk to other researchers that aren't related to the paper so they can get an idea of the story. And an embargo basically is the point that they are not allowed to actually publicly release their story until.
Yeah.
And it will often coincide, so the paper will come out that day and then the story will come out.
Yes.
But the journal, this time, it transpired, the journal was asked to rush the paper through because they wanted the story to come out at a certain point in time because it was going to be released with a big BBC documentary and they'd written a book that was going to be coming out a week later.
Well, and this was also the interesting thing, is that when it first came out, there was no knowledge or notice of this. But after a few months of I guess, science blogging back and forth about other people suggesting that maybe there were things going on that was a little bit more under the table, or that things were rushed and that there was not a lot of honesty or openness, they came out and said, yeah, okay, we were partnering with this media conglomerate, this media group that was publishing this this documentary, and they appended that onto it.
Yeah, because originally they just checked off the thing where we have no
conflict of interest whatsoever.
But
because money had actually passed hands, that definitely counted as a conflict of interest.
Yeah, they were getting paid for the documentary, and there was even speculation at times that they were having to rush the paper out so that they could stay in charge of, stay ahead of the media blitz for the paper that they had invented.
If you look at the paper as well, the media stuff is almost based on an earlier view where they very much more strongly come off as this being an anthropoid.
Yeah, it's true. In the actual paper, it's very interesting that they don't actually lean in heavy to the notion that this is actually a direct ancestor to humans. They suggest it could be one possibility, but that it could also be convergence.
Yeah,
but the public perception, because of the documentary and everything else, and some of the people involved in the paper were previously people who earlier on, before the idea had been dropped, were earlier on proponents that this whole group, what is it, the adaptiforms?
Adapiforms. Yeah, so lemurs and lorises.
That the adapiforms were really the earliest ancestors of hominids or human-like organisms. Yeah. Hominids is a little bit
higher apes, I guess.
Yeah. Higher apes. I hate those designations.
I know.
I'm sorry. Just because we can build bridges, does that really make us any better than the gorilla?
Yes.
I mean, no, does it? Look at what we have to do to make those bridges. The gorilla just kind of sits there and is like, sup.
That's true.
It's a very Greek escalator point of view, whereas because the closer you get towards people, the better you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You get to a notion of just
why
because we have progress, it
lowest
automatically
of the
means
higher
it's
apes.
better.
Man, if we didn't build bridges, I wouldn't have to drive through Missouri on my way home.
If you didn't
build bridges, you'd never get home.
I wouldn't be here.
Well, yeah, good point.
Hey.
Here's the thing. If we hadn't gotten to the point where we could build bridges, we also probably hadn't built roads. If we hadn't built roads, we probably wouldn't have farms. So chances are none of us would be here because the population would be dramatically lower.
You don't come from somewhere that would be habitable. We're not in somewhere that would be habitable. No one would be living in most of this country.
Actually, this part of the country was totally habitable.
Yeah.
By native peoples
it was
that
the tree line.
Yeah.
But it was 100 degrees here today, so I'm going to go ahead and say that it's
100 degrees isn't a lot, though. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
It'll make you wish you were dead.
Only if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You should be used to it. You've been here long enough.
There was a media blitz for this thing, which pretty much focused on, we have found the missing link.
Yes.
This is the earliest thing.
This is our ancestor.
Yeah.
This is the.
And they name it Darwinius. They name it after Darwin very specifically because they are interested in championing this as being an early ancestor.
It was very. And I mean, if you look at all the authors on the paper as well, there are a couple of particularly that are very astutely tried to design this to be a big media thing, and the others on there haven't so much because they're much quieter in comparison in terms of interviews and stuff like that.
Exactly. But I mean, in some respects, backing up and not wanting to actually lay anything accusatory on this, you can kind of understand where something like this would come from. You get a beautiful specimen, you take a look at it, and you see things. Namely, the fact that a lot of these adapiforms have characteristics that do look similar to, things that we see in things that are on the line to humans. Yeah. It had been previously suggested that those are convergents, that those are just examples of things that have appeared multiple times in the primate tree. But still, you see this beautiful specimen, you see all these clear examples of things, and you start going off in your own head about how this could snowball into something really big. And so you want this to be something important.
Yeah.
And you end up in a situation where you've made it so important that effectively it's too much. You've snowballed it out of control.
Yeah. But you can see there's definitely signs that this was very rushed. They cock it up and fail to actually name it.
Yeah, the ICZ says that it's not actually officially named.
So they had to release a second paper actually doing that later. They don't have a systematic section. They don't do any of the stuff that you need to do to name it. There's no diagnosis. So they then had to bring that out later after that was pointed out. And the other thing as well is that a lot of their talks about analyses on what it's related to, that's like, this is going to be the subject of forthcoming work which is still not out.
Well, and they also suggested at one point they had several characteristics that they were linking with, and some of those were soft tissue that are not preserved on the specimen.
Yeah.
Like they were just assuming that it had to have this.
Yeah.
And that's always a dangerous game. But then again, that's really where you have it in your mind. This is something important. It has to have that, right?
Yeah. Right.
And as soon as you start thinking about that, you kind of lose a little bit of objectivity and you lose a little bit of your rationality. So it's easy to see how some of these jumps could have been made. It's just unfortunate that behind it was also this huge media blitz that blew the whole thing out of proportion. Because otherwise, this would just be another example of, well, we thought it was one thing, but guess what? It was probably something else.
Yeah.
Like it would just be a taxonomic blip as opposed to a giant media circus that imploded on itself, which is kind of what it became.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they released the paper, and they have this whole media circus about it. They have the documentary, they have a book, they have all these things associated with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's kind of the tipping point where suddenly everyone starts looking at it and says, well, maybe not? I mean, besides, of course, people being a little bit skeptical about how rushed it seems.
Well, one of the things that people noticed is that none of the media actually, none of the reporters that reported on this ever asked somebody's opinion that wasn't on the paper.
Yeah.
So people, other researchers then were reading through the paper and beginning to think, well, this really does look a lot more like a lemur, and they suggested, and that they don't suggest in the paper that lemurs are the ancestors. They said that this is a lemur-like thing that is separate from them. And then there's another animal was discovered.
Yes.
A couple of years later.
Yeah, it was
Afro
something.
Yeah.
We're very good at this.
Yeah.
The paper's right over there. Here, one moment. You guys, stall.
Okay.
Stall. You can do it. I swear.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
We saw some really cute dogs today at the farmer's market.
Oh, lots of dogs.
Oh, they were great dogs. Some of those bull terriers with the triangle-shaped heads.
The triangle-shaped eyes.
Yeah.
And they always look, they're just and they're just so happy to see you.
They were really happy. I got to pet them. It was very exciting.
For the record, the bulging eyes that you made are going to work really well in an audio podcast.
I'm tired.
Yeah, it's okay. Aphrodapsis.
Aphrodapsis.
Yes.
It works being in a dapper form, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I think that's kind of a really cutting way to name your genus.
Yeah.
When you're combating something that's called Darwinius and claiming it to be like the origin of all hominids, you have Aphrodapsis saying, "Nah, son, nah, this is an adaptiform."
The fascinating thing about Aphrodapsis is that they've only got the lower jaw.
Dapis, you're right.
Okay.
I fucked it up.
It's okay.
Oh my god.
It's okay. It's okay. Remember, we don't fact check Curtis. It's okay.
But I'm looking at the facts.
He does. He has the paper right in front of him.
Longicristatus. Owned the fucking species.
What were you talking?
They've got lower jaw and teeth.
Right.
They do.
But it's interesting because
of an adult. No
yes.
less.
Yes.
But they can still link it to Darwinius because they present an analysis.
They
present
an
actual phylogenetic analysis as opposed to the 30-odd characters where most of those were soft tissue where they weren't actually preserved.
Yeah.
They had 117 characters.
Yeah. The length of the tree is fascinating, though. Did you see the length of the tree?
Let's see. Start across Texas.
Talk into the mic, Curtis.
Never mind. It was 360 characteristics. Spread across 117 taxa.
The tree length is like over 1,000.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reversals, but they also rank characters and assign weights to multi-state stuff, so it's a bit weird.
Well, I mean, I looked at, that whole thing where they definitely had some multi-state characteristics with it. I mean, I don't know the group, so I'm always a little bit wary of ordering of multi-state characters, and we are going so far inside baseball with profiles.
Yeah, I know, it's okay. So, but by and large, they prevent. God damn it.
They prevent it.
They
prevent this from.
They prevent an analysis.
Yes. No, they present a good. They present analysis.
They present it good.
They present this real good. Like, I read this paper and I was like, "Yep, I think that one's the right answer."
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Why did we watch like 4 episodes of South Park before we did this again?
Hooey, honey boo boo.
Oh, good lord.
Oh yeah.
But But the thing I thought was so funny, because what the analysis shows is that these things are as far away from anthropoid primates as you can be and still be a primate.
Yeah, it is an absolutely the most basal fucking split.
Yeah, it's a lemur, which is what everyone who works on mammals or looks at mammals said when they saw it, because you saw the picture come out in the documentary, like, oh, that's a lemur.
It was a really cute lemur. It was a really cute looking lemur thing.
And it was a really well-preserved lemur-looking thing.
Yeah, and it's really cool. And it's still that. I mean, it's still an amazing fossil. It's still really important, but for some reason, people seem to think it's less because it's not closer to people.
Well, that's the fucking shit of the whole thing, is that if this didn't have this huge media push behind it, pushing towards something that it wasn't, this whole thing would be a blip on the radar, and it would still be a fascinating, important specimen on basal lemurs or early lemurs. But no. Instead, it has to be this weird media black eye.
Yeah.
And I guess...
Well, we're kind of good at those.
We're good at making black eyes?
Well, paleo in general, yeah.
Well, okay. They do reference in that one paper the forged example of...
Yeah, when I first was reading all this stuff, I'm like, hey, they kind of archaeoraptored it.
And then there was a history paper that we had read through, just detailing some of the more odds and ends and minutiae, which we've been more or less summarizing without credit, which I guess is plagiarism, right?
Well, I mean, it's all facts, but I mean, yeah, a lot of the bloggers, particularly people like George Zimmerman and Brian Switek.
George Zimmerman? Wait.
Carl
Zimmerman.
Carl Zimmerman. Sorry.
Carl Zimmerman. George Zimmerman shot a guy in a hoodie. I believe your phrase was open season on black people at that point.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah,
well, I mean, that's what you mean. If you've got a common name, you're going to have to live with it.
Yeah, Zimmer versus Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Good, you're right. Just forgot about that. Yeah, common names.
Well, I mean, we've got Peter Falk's niece here.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot. We have Peter Falk's niece.
I wish.
How is... Columbo's dead.
He's dead.
This whole joke started with open season on black people and now went to Columbo is dead. I'm pretty sure this joke is dead in the water.
Okay.
If we have anyone else listening to us at this point, I sincerely apologize for everything.
Yeah.
I have a black friend, I swear.
They're not going to get that joke, Curtis.
They don't need to, because it's just the fact that Curtis has no friends, and that's why it's funny.
No, it's the Stephen Colbert my black friend joke.
Yeah.
I tried to do that actually with my friend Mac at one point, but it really didn't turn out well.
So yeah, a lot of the bloggers and the various science writers that are very keyed into what goes on behind the scenes and from the media perspective, they were the people that really started pointing out a lot of the inconsistencies in the way, not necessarily the inconsistencies in the fossil, although a lot of them picked up on that too, but they're the ones that started to suggest that maybe the way this had been presented was kind of unusual from a press release.
Yeah, I mean, especially the embargo, and there were suggestions there that only certain groups of media were even allowed to get pre-release information, and only from certain sources. Like, this was definitely a very media-controlled event, because they were convinced that they had something and didn't want anyone else to tell them otherwise.
They actually had a publishing group working with them and so they wanted to control the flow of information, because they had the publishing group had their story, and they wanted that story to be what people heard.
Yeah. So again, you were talking about this.
Archaeoraptor.
Yeah. Before we went into horrible racism.
It happens on this podcast
routinely.
It was an accident.
I would like to disavow myself from any of that, but that's not the point.
She knows people from China.
She does. She has plenty of Chinese friends.
I do.
And she's Jewish, so she can get away with a lot of things.
That's also true. But pork is delicious. We won't go there.
Pork is delicious.
Gewalt.
So back in 1999, there was a I think it was a conference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a conference. And somebody who had gotten a hold of a fossil through then it was kind of a gray market at best.
Yellow?
Gotten a hold... Yeah, a yellow market.
Yeah, got a
purple market. There's so many different colors of markets. Gray market means quasi-legal. Maybe, maybe not. You're not quite sure.
Yeah.
So the black
However, in
market's
XCOM, it just means selling aliens.
black market is.
Amanda's butt's vibrating again.
I just got like 6 text messages in a row.
Okay, so does that mean that the Tigers won? Is that what we're going at right now? You're reading through every single one of the text messages. You are making me feel this
Dear
blank
God,
air, aren't you?
No, anyway, I don't give a shit.
Gray markets.
Gray markets. It was illegal, but there were less restrictions.
Okay.
Basically, no one cared back then.
Pretty much, yeah. So this guy got a hold of this.
Okay.
This fossil. Yes. Detroit lost. It's okay.
It's gonna be okay. We're all here for you.
Cleveland is still 5 back. We're gonna be fine.
It's okay. Just don't think about it.
So
we'll explain it to you later, and that we're not going to explain it to you.
Yeah, we're not gonna explain it to you. So this guy
persecuted.
So this fossil turns up, and everyone kind of freaks out.
Everyone kind of
stop
keeps
looking.
getting text messages.
Ignore it.
Just let it go. Let it go.
But she texted me a heart and I love you. I should respond.
Okay.
Okay. Here's the thing. We talked about we did dead air. We'll do dead air for you. Respond with your heart. Hey James, how's it going, man?
Okay.
So I heard there was like a dog with bulging eyes, really triangles.
There's a bull terrier.
A bull terrier. Cool.
They're actually really good. And the best thing is because a lot of people think they're very aggressive.
Yeah.
But, like these ones, they're like there was a kid, and they're like, we want to play with the kid, and
then play with the kid.
Yeah.
And there was a chocolate lab puppy.
Hey, we're stalling for you. You don't get to talk.
Okay, but I'm done. Anyway, so this fossil turns up, and people flipped out because it looked like the transition between dromaeosaurs, so things like Velociraptor, etc., to birds.
Yeah,
because it was essentially a modern type bird with a long dromaeosaur tail.
Okay.
And so people kind of freaked out, and there ended up National Geographic published an article in, I think, 2000.
2002.
No, 2002 was when they found out that it was...
Oh, okay, so 2000.
I'm pretty sure it's 2000.
Which somehow counted as naming it.
Yes.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yes.
Finding out it was a fake counted as naming it?
No. The 2000 National Geographic non-peer-reviewed publication
was
the naming and description of the fossil.
They named it Archaeoraptor. I'm pretty sure it's 2000 because in 2002...
2002 was when Microraptor was named.
Yeah, that was when Microraptor was named. Microraptor was named in
2004.
I think we briefly touched on this in Space Ducks, didn't we? When we were talking about the ridiculousness of not naming
it's
this.
Sad you have titles for all of these.
Yeah. I know all the titles because I write the titles. I'm the person that you can hate for that.
Because Microraptor was described, Joanus was described in 99.
Joanus?
Yeah, seriously.
As in Joanus?
Please don't talk to me about Latinizing Chinese names. I throw a fit every time.
It's okay. Somebody buggered up. They wanted to name one of the Cambrian fossils Scara annulata. They mistyped it, so it's called Scara anuslata.
Nice.
It's got a lot of anus.
So the Microraptor as a genus was erected in 99. But then in 2000, Zhonghe and somebody else...
Wait, are you just joking? Are you laughing at erected?
Yes, he is.
The erected Uranus.
And it might have been Xuxing, I don't remember, but Zhonghe was the lead author on the paper, and they were talking about...
How are you not the person who's had a drink all night?
And so they talked about Archaeoraptor's better half, which was Yanornis martini.
Okay.
So essentially what happened was Archaeoraptor was literally named in National Geographic, and then it turns out that the fossil was a fake.
Yes.
They literally took a dromaeosaur tail, which was Microraptor, glued it on to a Yanornis specimen, and went, woohoo! Mm-hmm. And then sold it for quite a bit of money, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Piltdown Man.
Yeah,
but
essentially.
The selling of the fossils, and that's one of the things that people are not happy with Oslo. They spent a lot of money buying a fossil that they know is technically illegal. Now,
yes. I mean, here's the thing: Field Museum got into wasn't as publicized, but the whole Sioux thing.
Yeah.
Sioux was a lot of majorly gray market kind of area because that was stuff that they probably shouldn't have been able to sell.
Yeah. So, and I mean, the acquiring of specimens is one thing. You've got to do it any way you can, almost, sadly. But they didn't want... People don't like it when it really looks like you're promoting it as a viable career option.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, there are some people who, they go out, they sell fossils for their living, and that's fine. Like, I understand that, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
But those people tend as well not to turn up at night to sites of special scientific interest with a JCB and try to take as much as they can either.
That's the biggest issue, is they're not going to places where it's illegal for them to go.
No,
and
they're the ones going to private lands or going through and getting the permits.
And the people who typically are doing this to make a livelihood aren't the big corporations that are coming in with a backhoe to steal everything.
No.
Because chances are good the people who really are doing this because they're doing it because it's a way for them to make a living off of something that they love.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't slash and burn your living.
No, God, no. It's basic farming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're living in a place where it's impossible to farm unless you slash and burn.
Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon.
Cattle grazing,
Otherwise known as a completely intractable problem.
People trying to live where people shouldn't fucking live.
Boy, this
people living. I mean, really,
you
gotta make a living.
But they didn't farm there. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
This got dark fairly quickly.
Well, I mean,
this started dark. It just got darker.
To bring it back to Kansas, we as human beings managed to fuck up the place so much that it was more uninhabitable than we got here because we dust bowled the entire thing.
Yes, that is true,
right?
So,
of course, I just
beautiful
now realized...
scenic Oklahoma where there's plenty of land to go around and totally great for farming. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Of course, I just now realized that we never actually did the intro.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or we can do it at the end and cut it in the front.
No, fuck it. No. The way this is going, we're not even doing a break. This whole fucking thing.
You don't need to edit
One
this.
long.
No, seriously, you don't need to edit this.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Fuck this, man. This is going out. This is
Yeah.
raw. You have anything you want to get off your chest right now? Fucking do it. It's going to be out there in the fucking world.
I hate people that are different from me.
Yeah, and we knew it, and we still like you, James. It's fucking weird. We don't know why.
Yeah, what does that say about us?
I think it means we're horrible.
You're different from me.
That's true, I am.
Yeah.
That means you don't like me.
No.
Good, that means I don't
No.
have
He can like you. He just hates you.
No.
Well, does that mean that I don't have to drive him around anymore? It's okay. I'm patting him on the shoulder. It's okay.
James's face just looks like he's filled with regret.
And now he looks like I kicked him and kicked his dog and then stole the dog.
Because you did kick him, then you kicked his dog, and then you stole his dog.
Just-
Metaphorically, but also literally.
Yes.
Just trying to be funny, but I guess it's okay. Everyone can tell me what they really think of me.
Oh.
I held out an open arm and said, I hate you too, man.
Okay. I think it's been a bad week for everyone. Anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
One random thing as well, talking about Archaeoraptor. People in the press need to learn that conference proceedings aren't news and they're not science. Not yet. That happens way too often. People present stuff at the conference, people think it's amazing. It's like, it's not peer-reviewed.
Does it count if it's something that's just been peer-reviewed and will be published soon? Because that happened to me.
Well, I think the classic example is when the media picked up that GSA talk 2 years ago about squids doing self-portrait.
Yeah, it's back.
Yeah, right. I forgot the giant squid self-portrait.
Invited talk from GSA because they're more about making money than they are about science.
Here again, once again, the rawest of podcasts. This shit is raw. We are not censoring anything. We're just giving it to you straight the way it is.
But, well, I mean, my talk at GSA, the paper's already out because I'm really lazy.
My talk? What is my talk at GSA?
Hey.
Oh, yeah,
my talk at GSA is already out, too.
Hey.
Mine isn't.
It will be.
It will be
awesome.
soon, as soon as Steve goes over it and we get it, neatened up a little, and I finish all the figures.
It'll be awesome.
But then I'll submit it and get it sent out, and it's going to be awesome. And I will tell y'all, there are fucking chickens involved, and it's going to be awesome.
There are chickens. Are you using the picture of Senor Pollo?
I am so totally using the picture of Senor Pollo.
Good.
I look forward to seeing our talk.
Yeah, I'm very happy. So I guess if we wanted to sum up this whole shit show,
I was saying clusterfuck nightmare.
As far as what the Darwinius debacle, what do you think the be all end all moral lessons of Darwinius are?
I think well, the big thing is the intractable problem of in order for your science to have an impact, you need to have a story, but it's really sad when the story takes over and then seems to make the fossil less important because it doesn't quite fit the story, even though it's still important for completely different reasons.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, each fossil has a story. That's what makes them interesting.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we can't. We have to work with what the story is. We can't just make up the story. That didn't come out like the way I wanted it to, but I think I got my point across.
No, I get it. You can't force the issue. You can't force something to be something that it's not.
Yeah, you have to.
Not
you have
everything
to
is a
within...
nature or a science paper, and
Yeah.
wanting it always to be can be dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think another element to it, sort of similar to you can't force something to be something it's not, is just the acknowledgement that we're always approximating a reality. Like, it's not something that you ever want to really talk about with science because you always feel like if you lose absolutism, you lose some sort of grounding. But I feel like in losing absolutism, you gain more grounding because it becomes more relatable. We are testing hypotheses. We are often wrong, and we self-rectify and we self-correct because science is a process through which we approximate the real laws.
Mm-hmm.
We know we'll never actually get there. We know our understanding of gravity isn't perfect, but it's good enough that we can know when we drop something on this fucking planet, it's going to accelerate to the planet at about 9.6 meters per second squared.
Right.
9.8. Fuck
9.8.
me.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I was gonna.
What's the point to between?
Depends on whether or not you're higher. Anyway. Depends on how far away you are from the core. Regardless, we're always approximating some sort of reality. So whenever we're doing these kind of studies, we always need to know that even if we think we find the missing link, chances are we could be wrong.
Right.
And to put so much weight and so much stock into the media buzz, I can understand the need and the desire to really be like, this is important, this is really cool, we should let the world know. But putting so much of that effort just into that means that you're going to have real problems when it's not really that at all. Whereas if it was just, we present this idea and then it gets shot down and people say, no, it's actually this, you haven't lost anything. In fact, you've still added. You've still added to the general knowledge because you've still presented a new specimen and someone has said, yeah, well, you might think it would be something like this, but it's actually not. And that's taken us one step closer.
Yeah.
As it is right now, as you've said before, the problem is that the Darwinius specimen, Ida, this beautiful Mona Lisa specimen, which should be getting a lot of study, kind of has a little bit of a black mark on it because it has this whole media buzz associated with it that kind of fucked it, right?
Yeah, and I think the trouble with getting overexcited about the media is the whole reason you do this is because you want to teach people. You want them to spread knowledge, and you've got what you think is interesting new knowledge, and you want to get that out there. The trouble is, there's this fine line between interpretation and indoctrination, and sometimes your pedagogy becomes demagogy without meaning to. So the fact that this was presented very firmly as the ancestor of all humans and apes.
And done so by a media group.
Yes,
not actually
exactly.
done so by the paper, which I think is the most fascinating element to it.
And
Everyone
it's
thought
also
that
key.
this is what it is.
Yeah.
Even though the paper doesn't fucking say that.
But nobody's going to read the paper, they're all going to watch the documentaries, and that's...
Or they're going to read the BBC article or
Yeah.
the CNN article.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to see.
Yeah.
So I guess that's really about it talking about Darwinius, unless anyone else has any other thoughts or comments.
I think we probably covered about as much, if not more, than we usually do.
Yeah, and within about an hour.
That's longer than I thought this was going to be.
Yeah, we actually managed to totally almost stay on topic this time.
I totally fucking knew it. All I need to do is get microphones in front of you people, and you actually wake up.
Hardly, but yeah.
I still have to drive home, and I'm ready to fall asleep.
It's okay.
It's okay, I go to bed.
No, I can't leave the cat. Are you kidding me?
The cat
I
is
would-
fine. The
I
cat's
would-
just going to look at you pissed the next day.
Curtis's out of his 3 beds, they're good, but I might prefer them in my own.
Well, yeah, obviously, it's your own. That's the reason why you'd prefer it.
And you got a cat.
Yeah, I would get home tomorrow morning, and he'd be like, the fuck.
He'd be like, the fuck?
He'd be like, the fuck.
The fuck.
The fuck.
The fuck.
The fuck.
I really, 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 really wish I could get away with calling this podcast The Fuck.
Question mark?
The blank, blank, blank.
Yeah,
the
just-
star asterisk.
Yes. Just put 4
Oh,
stars.
Jesus Christ.
up
After
there.
the fucking cartoon thing, the pound sign, @ asterisk.
Exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Yeah, there's got to be a question mark. Because it is a question. The fuck? The fuck?
Then if we could maybe get
I think we've earned our
Darwinius-
explicit on this one, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
You always do. You always try.
Well, thank you.
Very try.
Very, very try. There's that thing you call wit.
You got there eventually. I'm sorry, it's just so easy right now.
It's basically kicking a dead dog. Why the fuck are you kicking the dead dog?
I don't know.
Well, on that note, I've been Curt.
I've been Amanda.
James.
And we're signing off. Well, that was fun.
That was, great.
We've had more painful experiences, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys have, yeah.